Got here late, man. You should have heard the ranting points. I went full tombstone, man, and I think it was damn good. Well, hey, with a mustache and a hat like this, you got to be good. That's all I can say. Australian Ben, howdy. How you doing?
How's that looking?
Oh, I think we're going to nail it. Let's see what you got here. All right, now, are you on a laptop?
Yeah, I'm on a laptop, and I wanted to get the shot of the moon behind me.
Okay,
so
there you go.
I'm kind of doing this thing. How's that look?
All right. Can you tilt it just a little? You can probably get both in to twist your monitor a little bit there. I think you'll get both. There you go. All right, now you come back a little bit. Boom. I think we can go with that. Maybe no, a little bit more. Go back the other way. Go back the other way.
This way?
Yeah. No, the other way. I got to direct this thing here. That's good. You got a lot of room in there. Keep going with it because we really want you a little bit more. Okay. Now there you go. Now you come back toward. There you go. And a little bit up. This is great. Never done this before.
No. This is good. I see what
you're
doing.
There you go. Oh, too much. Bring it down. Bring it back up. There. Boom.
Let me turn the fan off, too.
We got it.
All right. How's that look, Daniel?
Lee, you're doing great. This goes because remember, now I can edit all this here. I'm going to edit that out. What's this? Hello, Lee Austin. Welcome to the Edge Television broadcast.
Well, hello, Daniel. Thank you for having me on again.
All right. It is I don't know if you saw the show last week or the highlights or anything, but last week we were talking about hollow earth. And I thought, man, how great would it be to follow up with the flat earth theory? But now I'm not saying where you stand because I'm just going to leave it out there and we're going to go out as if I don't know because the people out there are all wondering. And I like to have a little wondering out there before we get going. But Lee, before we get going, introduce yourself to our audience again.
Yeah, my name is Lee Austin. I have been in the broadcasting industry for 30 years. A couple years ago, I wrote a book called Morning Star's Tale. It is a book narrated by Lucifer where he reveals that the earth is flat, and he also decides to reveal the secrets of the universe and the occult. I figured if I wrote it as myself, I'm a nobody. No one really knows who I am. But strangely enough, Lucifer has credibility, and he is the narrator of Morning Star's Tale. And again, it's a book about the flat earth and a revelation of how things work in this particular universe we call the Milky Way.
Well, of course, we're talking about the flat earth tonight. I imagine we'll go all over the place, really, as the stream of consciousness dictates. But there are others that suggest that there is multiple universe. You have, of course, Jacques Peck, in the multiverse. So I don't even know if we're in the same universe. Now, you and I are talking to each other, but how do I know that I'm not really in the future and I've just communicated to you in the past? I don't know.
Well, that's a really good point. Think about this. We live in a box of space and time. I think whether you believe the earth is round or flat, we can pretty much all agree on that. We live in a box of space and time. And actually, time is a substance. And from doing this study before I wrote Morning Star's Tale, I actually studied the book of Enoch, the secret of the books of Enoch, and the book of Jubilees, along with the Bible, and the secret teachings of all ages by Manly Hall. And what I discovered through all of these books is that you're right, Daniel. We live in a multiverse. Superstring theory, in my opinion, is not a theory, it's actually true. And Tesla was right when he said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, it's sound and frequency. Sound and frequency produces matter in this first heaven of the third dimension. So you're right. We could very well be in a multiverse right now. And I'm getting to the point in my life where what it is I can't see and feel and touch has become more real than this temporary, tangible reality we call life.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, that rings a bell right there with the scripture. It says the things that are not seen are more real than things that are. And the things that are made with things that aren't seen. So there definitely is an invisible world of some sort or another dimension. I mean, when you talk about all the creatures and cryptids out there, they all point to some sort of other dimension that these creatures, cryptids, may be going in and out of. That's why, somebody will see a Bigfoot and then they won't see him. There have been testimony of people saying they materialized in front of them and they dematerialized. And I think it could possibly be that they're just going to these other dimensions. We're not I don't know that we're at the height of the food chain, but are we at the center of the universe?
Yes, we are at the center of the universe. It is, without a doubt, the greatest conspiracy theory in the history of man. And you talk about interdimensional shape-shifting portals and all of that. If you go back into the book of Genesis, chapter 6, I was always mystified why the Lord flooded the earth. It seemed at the time like a cruel thing to do, but in fact what happened was 200 angels descended on Mount Hermon and decided to have intercourse with women and produced a race of Nephilim. And these hybrids were going to stave off Jesus Christ coming to the earth and being an atonement for sin. So what the Lord did was he flooded the earth, killed all the Nephilim. Their disembodied spirits are known as demons, and those are the ones that are in the other dimension, but as close as the end of your finger, because they're all around us, along with angels, dark angels, demons, but there is nothing out there. That's the thing about NASA and the lie. We are not to go into the fourth dimension of the second heaven. It is forbidden. It's on the other side of the firmament. We are to stay here on the earth, the flat earth, where we have dominion over the demons and these spirits, because that's another realm we're not supposed to go into. In other words, like Paul Newman said, a man has to know his limits.
Didn't Paul, was it Paul or that got confused and said he didn't know whether he was in this universe or another one?
It could be. You know, I always go back.
Whether I was in the body or was I not?
I always go back to the Matrix and, you know, the fact that Neo was able to manipulate a different dimension. And there have been times in my life where I have been in deliverance sessions, and I've been on the other side of deliverance. I've seen this stuff manifest itself in my own life. And we don't see it much in America because the church is dead. But if you pull up videos from TB Joshua from Emmanuel TV, and you look at what's going on in Africa, that fourth dimension is brought to the forefront in those churches, and there's a demonstration of the power of God. But you just don't see it in America because the church is dead. And one of the benefits, I believe, from this coronavirus is that the church is going to come back to life, but it's going to be in the form more of a street ministry.
Okay, let's get to a few questions that come flying in here. This is from Missouri. It says, if the earth is flat, does it in fact have a firmament?
Yes, it does. In the book Morningstar's Tale that I wrote, Lucifer talks about a firmament dome, and probably the best way to explain all of it is you take a Frisbee, turn it upside down, and there's a rim around the edge. That would represent the Antarctic ice wall, which is 60,000 miles in circumference. After the ice wall, we don't know what there is. And people say, well, will you fall off the edge? And the answer is, we don't know what's out there, because in 1959, they passed the Antarctic Treaty. NASA was established in 1958. And so after Admiral Byrd in 1954 said there was a continent as large as America with vast minerals past the ice wall, they sealed off Antarctica. It's the Antarctic Treaty. You can't go there, and you can't go up to check it out because NASA has militarized the atmosphere. You can't go up. So, yes, there is a dome above us, and above that dome is a sea firmament. And I'm not just pulling this stuff out of my hat. This is all from reading these books, the Bible, the Book of Enoch, the Book of the Secrets of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, and the Secret Teachings of All Ages. Again, all of these readings led to the writing of this book and a development of new beliefs.
Okay. Hey, we have this comment for you. This is, it says, please tell Lee, a.k.a. OCD, that Melissa in Austin still misses him on the air.
She is so sweet. The last time I was on your show, she sent me an email the following day. I didn't know she was still following me, and she said, "Oh, I saw you on Daniel's show. That was so sweet of him to bring you on." And I said, "Man, I really miss you, and I miss everybody in Austin."
A lot of things going on in Austin right now, I know that. Space Cow says, Lee, what about the city-sized ships? Are those Nephilim?
That's a really good question, and it brings up the question of UFOs. Personally, I believe most UFOs are military. But what happened was, and Bob Lazar talked a lot about this, a couple interviews he had with Joe Rogan, that in fact aliens are here, but they're not from space. They're not from another world. They're from what you talked about earlier, Daniel, another dimension. They're interdimensional beings, and I believe there was an exchange. We'll give you technology in exchange for your allegiance. So the UFOs that I think people are seeing, for the most part, are military, but they were built by interdimensional beings known as the Nephilim, or dark angels, or demons, call them what you will, but it's all from that second heaven of the fourth dimension.
Okay. And we have this from Azure. Most of these questions are from our live chat, by the way, Lee. We just flipped on me saying it for a second. Yeah. If the Earth is flat, how can one explain the curvature on the horizon?
The Pythagorean theorem basically goes like this. Every mile, an eighth of an inch squared. And in other words, at 3 miles, I live on the east coast of Florida, at 3 miles, you see ships drop below the horizon. And it certainly looks like the Earth is curved. But I've taken binoculars, and I've seen ships go over the horizon, take out a pair of binoculars, and they come back. Now, how can that be? And the reason is it's our vantage point. We have a limited vantage point. We can only see 3 miles out. If I was elevated, for example, 1,000 feet, I could probably see maybe 6 or 7 miles out. There's a great example on YouTube. It is from St. Joseph, Michigan, or rather St. Joseph, Michigan, to Chicago, Illinois. Now, St. Joseph is on the west coast of Michigan, Chicago on the east coast of Illinois. It's 60 miles away. Given the Pythagorean theorem, it should be, that is, the Willis Tower should be 1,400 feet under the curvature, the tallest building in Chicago. It isn't. So one day they took a video of it, and WGN in Chicago got it. The meteorologist said, "What you're seeing is a mirage." And so they're telling you what you see and feel isn't reality. But there's hundreds of examples like that on YouTube that explain that the Earth is not curved, and they show you examples of various vantage points where there should be curvature and there isn't.
So when you're looking at the ship and it seems to go down, it's really not going over and down?
No. If you take out a pair of binoculars, and I've done this, I've seen the videos, that's one thing, but to actually do it, and again, I live on the east coast of Florida, so I'm always on the beach. I have taken out a pair of binoculars after seeing a boat go over the horizon, and it comes back. And the only explanation is that it's flat. It's your perception. It's your vantage point. And it's the same thing when the sun rises or sets. It's very confusing because it looks like it comes over the horizon and that the Earth is spinning. When in fact what it is that the sun is very close, very small, and localized. As a matter of fact, the sun and the moon are the same exact size, and that's why when you see an eclipse, one covers the other. NASA says that the moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, but 400 times closer to the Earth. So it cancels itself out, which doesn't make any sense. And the other thing I never understood was the moon's phases. When a moon is half lit, you literally see a line down the middle of the moon, half of it is dark. And the question is, what's causing it? It certainly can't be the Earth because they say the Earth is curved. In the book of Enoch, Enoch says that the sun pours its light into the moon and that the moon projects its own unique cold light. So what Enoch is saying in his book is that the moon doesn't reflect the sun. That's good. The moon doesn't reflect its sun. It projects its own unique light.
Wow. Well, hey, you know what? That's all we want, just a reasonable explanation, and that's why you're on the program tonight, so that was interesting there. All right, a question from Ray, I believe from Canada, says, Lee, where does the water from the oceans go to or come from?
According to the Bible, during the days of creation, the Lord created the oceans, and then he created the earth. There's, getting back to your guest last week talking about the hollow earth, there is credence to the belief that the great bosom, as they refer to it, that there's actually oceans underneath the earth. And this, in part, may be responsible, in part, for the tides. This is really wild. The Great Lakes don't experience tides, and the question is, why not? They're huge. And the answer is, apparently, and again, all of this is from the research and reading these books, is because they're not connected to the oceans. The sun gives off a positive charge, the moon gives off a negative charge, and that in part is responsible for the fluctuation of the tides. Then you get into the big bosom, and there's only one of them, and that's in the center of the North Pole, where there apparently is a vortex, and the waters go in and out, and along with the positive charge of the sun and the negative charge of the moon, that could be responsible for the tides. I'm not saying it is. A lot of this stuff, it makes my head spin.
Yeah, I see somebody in the live chat called that the Dolly Parton effect.
Well, and yeah, the firmament dome is made of plastic just to complete the Dolly.
Hey, look, man. I mean, I did have a guest on here, just to let you know, and somebody remind me of the name of him, but he said that the moon and the sun are actually tethered by the space shuttle, and a space shuttle is moving them across the horizon. So, hey, you're sounding pretty good right now. All right, here's
that's a good one.
Okay, Australian Ben. Since all energy is vibration, it is true to say that when we are starting to peel through the veil of 3D by our daily symbiosis with digital devices. Good luck with that one. Dun, 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 dun.
The last page of the book, Morningstar's Tale, Lucifer reveals where this is going. And what he says, and I'll paraphrase, that 5G is going to be the mechanism to bring all of this to what he's talking about to pass. In other words, smartphones are going to become relegated to the dustbin of history. What's going to happen? People keep saying, well, what's 5G all about? All right, let's get away from all the conspiracy theory. Here's what actually is going to happen, I believe. You're going to be walking down the street and you're going to say, I'd like to get some payway. I'd like this, this, and this. Okay, Mr. Campbell. Okay, Mr. That'll be $8.95, and then you just drive to the restaurant because everything is going to be wired. It's called the Internet of Things. And when everything is tagged with a microphone, you're going to literally be able to walk down your street and say anything, and a microphone will pick it up, immediately recognize you for being you, and will do what you ask. It's much like we're experiencing now with Siri. Just imagine Siri being everywhere and on everything. You're already seeing with smart thermostats, smart refrigerators. You open the door to your refrigerator, and it says, Mr. Austin, your eggs are going stale. Would you like to order some right now? In the future, when cell phones, smartphones are obsolete, that's what 5G is. The Internet of Things, everything interconnected to the net, and you need that kind of broad bandwidth to do it, which 5G provides. And that's when you're going to see the real evil unroll in all of this, because that's when you're going to be transcending into different dimensions.
Well, the movie Minority Report projected that, or presented that, only they did it with eye scans. Everywhere the officer went, an eye scan hit him wherever he looked, and it would say, welcome back, Mr. Anderson. You're going to get, you want your favorite beer? We got it in here. Or, hey, you want that new tie you're looking for on the other side of the mall. So it's, we're pretty close to that now already. And that was a good depiction of that just from there. But you're saying that maybe just from, we may be able to get that through the audio. All right. Here's, Put Yahweh First says, a lot of people believe that there are grays that inhabit the inner earth. But because there's no inner earth on the flat earth situation, where are the grays hanging out?
I do believe there's an inner earth. My beliefs on flat earth do rub some that have a secular worldview of flat earth the wrong way. In the book, Morningstar's Tale, and I'll just tell you what Lucifer believes, because he and I seem to be lining up on beliefs. I wrote it. Well, I wrote it, but he's narrating it. We have to remember, I wrote the book and he's just the narrator. But what he says, I believe.
Y'all's tight? Y'all's tight?
We were a little bit too tight. Writing the book was an arduous task because the Lord was feeding me information.
Am I going to need an exorcism after this show?
I'm not going to talk about the shuttle connecting the sun and the moon. Okay. I promise.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's a trip, man. I just, when I wrote the book, it was as if I was it was almost like I had two personalities, because I was trying to write the book as Lucifer, trying to be intelligent, writing way over my pay grade, and yet still trying to stay true to God. C.S. Lewis wrote a book called The Screw Tape Letters, and in it, a senior demon instructs a minor demon how to oppress people. And they asked C.S. Lewis about the book, and he said it was the most difficult book he ever wrote because he got tired of listening to all of the darkness. And then that was a big relief when I finished writing this book. I don't ever want to have to go into that level of darkness again.
Well, I certainly hope that you don't, but it reminded me of a line out of "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" where a guitar player said that, the devil taught him how to play guitar, but he had to trade him his soul. And the guy said, well, you mean you traded your ever-loving soul? He said, well, I wasn't using it. So I'm just saying, Lee, hang on to your soul. You are going to need it sometime. You might not be using it now, but you might go be needing that thing later.
From what I've read, believing in flat Earth is not a condition of salvation. Flat Earth is the only conspiracy theory that makes me happy. It's actually increased my faith in God. When we talk about 9/11,
each his own.
JFK, chemtrails, now the coronavirus and Bill Gates, it's all depressing. But flat Earth is exciting. It's invigorating, and it has made me more joyful about existence, because if we are the center of the universe, then we must be very special that everything is revolving around us, that we're not some insignificant speck spinning at 960 miles an hour, going 66,000 miles around the sun, while our galaxy goes 493,000 miles, and then the Milky Way does another million miles an hour into the infinite unknown.
You know what makes me happy?
Pie.
Fried shrimp. Lots of it. Okay. Peter from Australia says, Lee, if the Earth is flat, how do sundials work then?
The sun and the moon are local, and the flat Earth is a lot bigger than we've been told. From the book of Enoch, he says the ice wall, Antarctica, that lower section, which isn't a continent, is actually 12 strata, and a strata is 5,000 miles. So the heliocentric theory says the Earth is 24,901 miles in circumference. The flat Earth theory, what I believe, is that the ice wall is 60,000 miles in circumference, and then it extends, and we don't know how far. It could go way out. We have no idea because we're not allowed to go. So the sun and the moon are local. In the book Morning Star's Tale, Lucifer says they're 3,500 miles above the surface of the Earth. That's where I believe they are. And then there's a firmament dome. Because they're local, the sun makes a circuit every 24 hours, 4 degrees per hour, 360 degrees in a day. And then it moves north or south from the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn 1/10 of 1 degree per day. That's what attributes the seasons. But as far as the sundial goes, they all work on a flat Earth. A sundial, a lighthouse, a gyroscope, none of these would work on a round Earth. And that gets to the artificial horizon on a plane. That's a gyroscope. Planes fly at a level flight once they hit 35,000 feet. If there was an adjustment for the curvature, if there wasn't, they would fly into space. Hey, you got the same picture I got.
Well, I'm thinking if we're on a spinning globe, I've always wondered, like if you're on a merry-go-round, you get going too fast, you're going to get thrown off. I was wondering, how come we didn't get thrown off to Earth?
Well, they say because of gravity, but gravity doesn't exist. There's only density and buoyancy. The reason you and I stick to the Earth is because we're denser than the air. And the reason a helium balloon goes up in the air is because it's lighter than the air. It's actually quite simple.
Okay. All right. The wind blows clouds around, and some of those clouds don't return. Are they getting blown out in space?
No. Think of it as the Truman Show. It's a snow globe. Basically, we're not going anywhere. The reason that NASA hasn't been back to the moon since 1972 is because they never went there in the first place. There were 6 fictional flights to the moon between 1969 and 1972. You can't penetrate the firmament. You can't get out. We're stuck here. We are stuck in this first heaven of the third dimension. There's no getting out there. There's no outer space.
Well, I think we agreed on that. I mean, I'm always good with a moon hoax theory going on there. All right, it says, if you could point a laser to the east, if the Earth is flat, shouldn't I be able to touch the Great Pyramid, for example, a fixed point?
The problem with that is the atmosphere. You have dust, fog, smog, all of that. Before I came on the show, I was actually thinking how cool it would be to go down to South America. There's a place there called, I think it's the Bolivian Salt Flats, and you can actually see 100 miles. And I would love to get on one end of the salt flat with a laser and just see if I could connect and find another person. And they have, like the Nikon P93 camera, I think it's called. You should be able to, but the problem is it's atmospheric conditions, and the laser would have to be strong enough. And the Earth isn't perfectly flat. There's mountains, there's valleys, there's peaks.
Okay. Now, as you can see, up here we have a grab from your screen grab from your website there. Aren't you getting a little? I mean, did Lucifer? Did he talk to you and give you this information?
No, he didn't give me any of it.
Okay. What's he doing, by the way? Chilling somewhere? And that's another question.
I think they're working on the vaccine, if you want to know the truth.
Is hell underneath the flat Earth? Where's it at? 3,600
miles below the surface of the flat Earth. I actually believe that more than I do the dome being 3,500. I don't know.
We'll leave this title here from your book there. It says, recently, Lucifer revealed the mysteries of the flat Earth and universe. Who do you reveal them to?
To me.
Because I thought you wasn't talking to him.
Oh, that's good. I got to tell you about this device I have that connects the sun and the moon. It's a ship. I'm going back to an old joke.
Okay.
The Lord revealed it to me, but it's a fictional novella. Here's the problem with the book. When you talk about the flat Earth, people think you're nuts. I was doing my own radio show in Austin, a syndicated show, and someone brought up the topic. 6 months later, I'm a believer, and I got fired by the radio station and the network for believing in the flat Earth. I knew that if I wrote the book from my own personal point of view, people would go, there's another guy living with his mother. He's nuts. Lucifer ironically gives this book credibility. And the people that I'm actually trying to reach are millennials. People our age, over 40.
Hey.
Are you over 40?
Barely.
Okay. People are like 41 like you and maybe 43 like me. They're not going to believe this for the most part. It's millennials. You have two different generations, those that were born before the internet and those that were born after. You and I were born before. Walter Cronkite said we landed on the moon. We believed it. And as far as the Earth being flat, it's still insanity to most people our age. But millennials, according to a Forbes article, 2/3 are questioning the shape of the Earth. And those are the people I'm marketing to. Those are the people I'm trying to reach. So yeah, I wrote the book. Lucifer revealed it to me fictionally, but the revelation came from God. That's probably the best way to explain it.
What did you just say? Okay. So I'm with you. Okay, I got you.
It's a fictional book.
Okay. But a non-fictional devil is entwined somewhere in here. He's talking to somebody.
And that's the real twist on the book, because the book isn't completely fiction. I throw out a lot of numbers, and those numbers are correct because they're heliocentric numbers. When I say the Earth rotates at 960 miles per hour at the equator, those are NASA numbers. When I say the Earth revolves around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour, those are NASA numbers. When I say our little galaxy is going 493,000 miles per hour, those are NASA numbers. So the book is filled with numbers and scientific facts interspersed with a liar, a pathological liar, who decides to tell the truth because he knows no one's going to believe him anyway.
Sound like Democrats, man. All right, let's get.
Is that the truth?
Put Yahweh first says, hey, is the sun and the moon flat as well?
Yes, they're a light. In the book of Genesis, I think it's chapter 3, the Lord says, the sun and the moon are lights. The reason that NASA has never landed on the moon, they can get there. And again, I think it's only about 3,500 miles away. They can get there, but they can't land on it because it's a light. It's got to be the most frustrating thing in the flat world, to build a rocket to go to the moon and to discover that you can't land on it because it's a light. It's not terra firma. And neither is the sun. The sun is not a star, and there are no such thing as planets. In the book of Enoch, he reveals that the lights that you see in the sky, those are actually sentient beings, angelic beings. That's what he says. There's a lot
of them. If that's true, there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah. And the other thing is, when you take still photography of Polaris, the only immovable spot in the universe besides the flat Earth, you'll see the stars streak in circles around and around and around. If we were rotating around the sun at 66,000 miles per hour, we would have a different perspective in 6 months. We would see all different stars, logically, but we don't. We see the same stars every night, taking the same track every night. And when you mix that in with still photography, all you see is everything rotating around us.
Well, man, it could be one of the reasons that they appear to move is because they're sentient beings and they're just flying around in space. So what do they do? What are they doing in space?
I have no idea. All I know is that in the book of Enoch, it talks about how 7 of the luminaries were the rebellious luminaries, and they left their course. Apparently, when God built this place, the stars were given paths to follow, and some of them didn't. And when Lucifer rebelled in heaven and took a third of the angels with him, that led to the chaos that led to the flood. Then you mix in the additional 200 watcher angels that came down, had sex with women, created a race of Nephilim, and then the earth was flooded and destroyed. And it says, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be before the coming of the Son of Man. So what you were talking about 30 minutes ago about portals and interdimensional beings, some of these could be Nephilim.
Do I need to redo this title and say, he is out there? That's you? No, that's okay.
I like that.
Okay, all right, here we go. Okay, from Space Cow, good name there. How high up is the sun and the moon? Up there.
In the book Morning Star's Tale, like I said, the impression I got, this sounds so strange saying this, but I'll say this. I really try not to sound religious, but the impression I got from the Lord is that it's about 3,500 miles. I don't know why. I've read books where people have gone to hell, and it's pretty universal. It's about 3,600 miles below the flat Earth. But as far as that is concerned, I'm not really too sure.
Okay, let's get to another question then. How are ships able to rely on nautical charts based on a spherical Earth to navigate?
When Magellan circumvented the Earth, he went from east to west. But you can go, if you take a look down on the Frisbee, you can circumnavigate the Earth. But what they've never done, no one has ever done, is circumnavigated the Earth from north to south. In other words, start at the North Pole, go under the South Pole, pop up, and go back to the North Pole. There has never been a flight in the history of man that has done that. And the other thing is, you're not allowed to fly over the South Pole. You can go down to the edge of Antarctica, to the ice wall, and a little bit in. Qantas does that, but you're not allowed to go into Antarctica. This argument could be ended tomorrow if someone would get in a jet, fly from Auckland, New Zealand, go under the South Pole, and pop up in Cape Town. If that were to happen, the Earth is round, and I'm a kook. I might be a kook anyway, but
Well, look,
that's,
okay. No, I agree with you. Okay, there is something to that. That there is some kind of blockage. I mean, it's like some when you Google Earth. A lot of times when you start getting around the Antarctic places, you get black strips. They're hiding something, and the powers that be are always hiding something. And so, I'm glad you're making a case that would probably make them mad because they probably don't want to know about it anyway. Azura says, where do meteors come from?
meteors are actually, there's a material called Libyan glass, and it's found in Libya on the desert, and it's solid chunks of molten glass. And apparently what's going on above the firmament dome, Enoch was taken up to the second heaven, and he was shown a vast ocean. He says in the book of Enoch, an ocean greater than any other ocean on earth. So literally there's an ocean above us. And within that ocean, occasionally heavenly bodies will collide and pierce the firmament dome and then come down to earth. But the interesting thing about it is the composition of these meteorites is the same composition of what you would find at the bottom of the ocean. Pyrex glass. In other words, it's hot molten glass that pierces the firmament dome, lands on the earth, and when they've taken an examination of what kind of composition it is, it's made of the same material that you'll find on the floor of the oceans of the world. So there's an ocean above and oceans below. And that's probably the hardest part of the flat earth to believe, that actually there is an ocean above us, a great ocean. And that's why they haven't gone back to the moon since 1972, because they never did, and they know now they're busted. You can't penetrate the firmament dome, and there is no thrust, there is no combustion in space.
Okay, so you're saying there's an ocean up there, and then the clouds are underneath that ocean?
Correct. And it's not like it's some sort of transitional atmospheric change. There is a hardened firmament dome above the flat earth, and below that dome is the sun and the moon, and they rotate from east to west clockwise, just like a clock above the flat earth, and they're close and local. And no one is getting on the other side of that dome. Now, the other thing that's interesting, Daniel, if you look in a telescope at Mars or Venus or any of these CGI planets that NASA gives us, they look a lot different through a telescope. They're blinking, twinkle, twinkle, little star. The reason they're blinking is that that light is shining through the ocean, the vast ocean that is contained by the firmament dome. And so you have these sentient, alive lights that are casting their light through this ocean and through the dome, and that's giving it the appearance of a blinking light. That's the hardest part about all of this to believe, because I know that sounds insane.
Now, see, I could say something snarky like,
Please do.
What are you smoking? But I'm going to ask something else. I'm going to say, what was your first clue to go down this theory road, to put credence to this theory of flat Earth?
NASA.
Okay.
I haven't believed that we went to the moon probably in 20, 30 years, I believe.
So the moon hoax is what generated your interest in the flat Earth?
Yeah, literally, Daniel, I had a call from a listener on my radio show, and he said, "Hey, have you checked out the flat Earth?" And I go, "No, why would I do that? It's stupid." And then after the show, I thought, I have to debunk this. The way people become believers is they try to debunk it. It's almost like going through the stages of grief. Your first reaction when you hear flat Earth should be, that's crazy and you're stupid. And then you simmer for a while, and then you think, I'm going to disprove it. And then you spend 6 or 8 months trying to disprove it, and then you find out it's true, and then you become a believer, and then you take all the ridicule that you were giving out to other people before.
Well, I would agree, because in my personal life, I came to a conclusion untold years ago when my kid came home from school, and they said, why do I have to eat fluoride, but some of the other kids don't? Well, I had been programmed to believe that fluoride is good for you. So I think, well, who are these kooky parents that aren't letting their kid get fluoride at school. Are they nut bags with aluminum foil in their head or what? So I went to debunk these nut bags at school that weren't allowing their kids to have fluoride. And then I came to the exact opposite, after research came to the exact opposite conclusion, said, oh my gosh, they ain't never taken that again, ever. And so I do agree with your point. I did go, and I think that's probably the best way to do it. When you research something, go debunk it if you can.
I don't expect to convert anybody, including yourself. Anybody who believes after an hour and a half of conversation that the earth is flat and they believed it was round prior is insane. Like I said, it took me 8 months to come around to this. And the hardest part is with Christians. I've gotten more interviews with Gnostics, occult radio, cosmic radio, your type of radio, the ones that, the weirdos. I love the weirdos. Oh, not you. Other weirdos. Yeah.
Okay.
Think about this. Christians believe that evolution is a load of crap. The scientist says to them, hey, you came out of a monkey's butt. The Christian says, you're full of crap. The same scientist comes around the next day and says, oh, you live on a round earth. Oh, okay, I'll believe that one.
Okay. Well, I mean, good.
It's interesting. I believe this for 58 years. It's only been the last 5 years that I have believed that the earth is flat. So, again, this is not how you get into the kingdom of God. But this certainly wakes you up. And, I'm glad we were able to avoid the word coronavirus for the first 45 minutes. But think about the lie that's being propagated right now with this. This is the biggest lie ever, the flat earth. And it just goes in lockstep with NASA, 9/11, JFK, chemtrails, fluoride. We are lied to every day we get up. And we are lied to until we go to bed. I have become, I don't want to say cynical, but as the kids say, woke to the fact that this place we live in is nothing but lies. The only common denominator you'll find, the only currency is the currency of lies. When anyone opens their mouth, I almost assume they're lying now. And it makes life a lot easier.
Well, and I would agree on that point that we are surrounded by lies. Everything that comes to us is manipulated from a point of view well, for instance, the pharmaceuticals, they'll tell you something because they want to sell pharmaceuticals. The health industry will tell you something because they want you to come in and spend big money to get healed up. I mean, every category that there is, the government wants you to believe them, so you'll vote for them. Everybody has sort of an angle, I guess, would be the way. And so they may not necessarily intend to lie, but their focus, their business model is intrinsically entwined in how they present stuff to you, which could be flat out lies, but in their point of view, it's the truth because it benefits them, so it has to be the truth. So I think, and here's another thing I say, Lee, and I think you might agree with this, is that when you hear something, whatever it is, just go right off to 180, whatever they said. You say it's light outside, okay? Now say no, it must be dark, and then work your way back to see if it really is light. Because whatever the subject matter is, because if you start on the 180 degree off, you're probably closer than what you just heard.
20 years ago, I bought gold, and my quote-unquote financial advisor and my wife at the time thought I was insane. And I've always been a contrarian. Whatever is, I go in the other direction. For example, if you're a doctor, it's going to cost you $250,000 to $500,000 in student loans to become a doctor. Your first day in the office, one of your first visitors is a salesman from one of the pharmaceuticals. He gives you a bunch of pills, and he says, pass these out. Oh, by the way, here's a trip to Hawaii and $20,000 towards your loan. That's the world we live in. It's the same thing with the military-industrial complex. It's the same thing with the Federal Reserve. And now you see with this fake pandemic, all of it coming to fruition. And the idea that at some point the military is going to help administer this in a vaccine that hasn't been invented yet, well, that's an interesting development in and of itself.
So is there and you're right, we did manage this. In fact, I advertised this show on Facebook. I said, get away from your COVID research for a couple hours, man, and watch the show that's totally not related. But is there COVID underneath the flat earth, though?
No, but I think a lot of people who are pushing this agenda might take a trip and find out at some point.
Well, see, if there isn't, maybe I'm going to be a flat earth believer and get down there and get away from this thing. Space Cow says, did this all come from Operation Paperclip?
In part, you had Jack Parsons, who was the creator of the Jet Propulsion Lab, getting together with L. Ron Hubbard, who got together with Walt Disney. And like I said, I live in Florida. It's ironic that Disney World is only about 40 miles away from NASA. Yeah. Operation Paperclip had a lot to do with it, bringing over all the German scientists. Then you had Operation Fishbowl, where they're shooting missiles into the Firmament Dome. Richard E. Berg goes there in 54. All of a sudden, they lock it up. They create the Antarctic Treaty, and then NASA's created in 59. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there are no coincidences that you take all the Nazis from Germany after World War II and you use them as the scientists, including von Braun, who was a close friend of Walt Disney. And then you move forward to Stanley Kubrick being buddies with Arthur C. Clarke, who wrote the book 2001, A Space Odyssey. And there's a photo of him with the folks from NASA in 1968 while he's filming 2001, A Space Odyssey. And then the next year, he allegedly films the landing on the moon.
Berserker asks the question, if the Earth is flat, why isn't it 24 hours a day of daylight?
Because the sun is local and small. And that's what you have to get your head around. The fact that the flat Earth itself is a lot larger than the round Earth. Like I said, the Antarctic ice wall is 60,000 miles in circumference. That contains all the continents and all the oceans. The sun and the moon are only about 3,500 miles above the flat Earth. The heliocentrics say the sun is 93 million miles away. The moon is 238,000 miles away. I'm saying that it's 3,500 miles away. And at any one time, the sun is illuminating half of the flat plane. Only half, but always half all the time because it's local like a flashlight.
Well, you know, AOC said, she said, we could actually land on the sun. All we have to do is do it at night. So, hey, good words of wisdom from that brain trust there. Space Cow says, didn't China just go to the moon?
Yeah, of course they didn't just go to the moon. And Israel just sent a ship not to the moon. All of these space agencies are in on it. And then the question becomes, are you telling me thousands of people are in on this conspiracy? No. Everything is compartmentalized. The job I have, I work in logistics for a trucking company. I have no idea what they're doing behind closed doors. I just answer the phone and someone says, I want to move 10,000 pounds to China. How much? And I get on my computer and figure out the deal and broker it. That's all I know. I don't even know if they're using the money for drugs or what they're doing. I'm sure they're legit. They're nice people. Well, but my point is, with NASA and all of these space agencies like China, it's only the people on the upper echelon and the actronauts, those are the only ones in on it.
Or astronauts.
Yeah.
Speaking of being in on it, I meant the entire world is in on this COVID hoax. All the world's shutting their economies down, so they're all in on it. There's something they're all in on.
That's what I wanted to bring up before we started the interview. Trying to connect flat Earth to COVID. And the common denominator is the lie. Who is in charge of this place? As a Christian, I believe it's the spirit of Antichrist that permeates all of these puppets. And what is happening now is the pièce de résistance, and I don't speak French. This is their masterpiece. They have people scared. They don't know what to do. They'll give away anything just to get back to normal. And they're going to make it so miserable that when this thing returns in the fall, they're going to line up for vaccines. You're not going to see protests, not many. Most are going to line up and say, just shoot me in the arm so I can go to the coffee shop.
And what do you expect that shot's going to do to them?
What do you think?
Probably make them sick. I don't know if it'll kill them.
You know, you hear all these stories about what's in the vaccines. This whole thing with Bill Gates, this quantum dot tattoo, which is going to be part of the vaccine. In other words, when you get the shot, and this is just, again, what I've read and I've written about, it'll give you a digital certificate. So in other words, when you go to the airport, you just raise your hand and it'll scan you, and that quantum dot will illuminate that you have gotten the required vaccine. But this COVID keeps mutating. So whatever you're getting a shot for, it's not going to stop it. And then the problem is vaccines. I haven't had a vaccine since I was 3. And I'm not going to take this vaccine. Mm-hmm. Are you?
No, certainly the hell not. And I think I read that an estimated 14% of Americans won't. But obviously we know what's coming on that. They're going to say, hey, you don't got the shot, you don't go to work. You don't get a loan. You don't get on this plane, or you don't get on this bus. So, you know.
I think it's a secondary step to the mark of the beast. I believe that this is what we're going through right now is a dress rehearsal for something much worse. Mm-hmm. I don't like saying that. I don't like being pessimistic. But I think even the vaccine, when it comes down the road, isn't going to be the mark of the beast, because in Scripture, it clearly states it's a choice. And mm-hmm. it's given by the Antichrist. It's not given by the WHO. It's not given by the military. It's when mm-hmm. the Antichrist makes the edict, if you want to buy, trade, or sell, you take this mark or we'll kill you. And we're not there.
You weren't the cheery kid in class, were you?
I was in the corner. I had a cloud over me, a mm-hmm. bit of a cloud, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I was funny, too. I was the class clown.
From the fake moon. All right, Doug White asked this question. It says, Lee, does the bottom of the earth on the other side, I mean, is it a bunch of rocks? What's underneath there? If you were to look up, what are you going to see? Tree roots or rocks or what?
A rock. The mother rock of all rocks. The Lord says he placed his foundational stone underneath all of it.
The rock of all rocks.
The rock of all rocks. And interestingly enough, in New York City at the UN, the Lucis Trust has the largest rock on the flat earth underneath it, and it's a tribute to Lucifer. Lucis Trust. And also Lucis, Luciface, mm-hmm. is one of the ingredients in this quantum dot tattoo, brought to you by the fine folks at,
Yeah, it seems Lucius just seems to have some kind of connection to Lucifer, man. I never did like that name.
It does. It's like naming your kid Adolf. Yeah, that's not a very popular name these days.
No. Have you ever seen or you've come across any UFOs in your life?
No, but I saw a demon once.
Oh, what he look like?
I was working at a rock station in Houston. It was called KLOL, Rock 101. Mm-hmm. And this was back in the 90s. And I was on the air, and I looked to my right, and I saw this black shadow, almost like a blob, start at the top of the wall and go all the way down and then disappear. And I had asked one of the other employees if he had ever seen anything like that. And he said, oh, yeah, there's also a demon woman who walks around. So I have seen that, but no, I've never seen a UFO.
Okay,
have you?
So a demon? No, but every once in a while you see me looking over, and I'm looking to see if there's any shadow people like lurking over there in the corner, but not an actual demon.
I've actually gone through deliverance, and I've done deliverance. In other words, I've had demons cast out of me. And I've cast demons out of people, but I didn't see them. Mm-hmm.
Well, let me just throw that out to people in the live chat. Anybody in the live chat, have you seen a demon? Just put a yes or no real quick, and I'll just keep you updated there, Lee.
There is an interesting video if you go to Emmanuel TV. Again, this is that church in Africa. Mm-hmm. And there was this guy who had a demon in a pot, a clay pot, and you actually saw the smoke come up, because it talks about demons being fierce terrestrial spirits that seek to inhabit humans or animals. But I actually saw this smoke come out of this pot and go into this guy, and he just started convulsing. So I guess technically I did see a demon, at least in that video.
Wait a minute. Now you jilted my memory there, and I do have something to say. All right. The question at hand for the viewers, have you seen a demon? Meow M, yes. Was hijacked, yes. Pam, yes. Space Cow, no, thankfully. Henry Prospect, no. Somebody says they saw the Hat Man. Wow. Don't want to see that. Christine says yes. Berserker says yes. Space Cows, I've only seen aliens. Okay. I guess it's better than a demon. Rose says yes. Scotty says no, but I felt demon hands. Okay. That's interesting. Tony Louisiana, fallen angels, believes he saw fallen angels. Anita A says, I saw demons in a dream. So now, yeah, it looks like there's definitely, we are spiritual beings.
Demons do speak through people. I've seen that.
Okay, so I said I didn't see a demon, but what I did see one time, I was at a church and they was doing one of these line things, where you go get prayed for, and the person ahead of me, they laid hands on him, and this person just hit the floor and started slithering like a snake and started foaming at the mouth and started screaming obscenities. I was thinking, dang, man, I don't know if I want them to lay hands on me. I don't know what's going to happen, man. I don't want to start slithering. I didn't know at that time, did they just put something in him or did they just trigger something? I didn't have that mentality. I'm thinking, this is creepy. I don't know if, wait a minute, I'd love for you to lay hands on me. I got to go. I got a meeting. Be right back. Y'all go ahead. Keep with your slithering and your foaming, and I'll be back. See you.
It is pretty disconcerting. And again, you don't see this in America that often. I was going to a church in 1994 in Brownsville, Texas, and it just hit me out of the blue. The pastor's brother came up to me, little short guy, put his hand on my chest, and I went down like a rock. And I knew immediately that the spirit of depression had left me. I went to another session when I was living in Houston, and the guy cast out a spirit of asthma. And I started retching up all this phlegm. I wasn't throwing up, I was retching up phlegm. One time I was praying for a guy who's bipolar in Austin, actually in a mall, and he went down like a rock. I've had prayer over the spirit of Freemasonry. It's real. It's hard to believe that demons can inhabit Christians, but they can. Because your spirit is sealed by Christ, but your soul and your body is still susceptible to the invasion. Your three parts, spirit, soul, and body. Your spirit's sealed by Christ when you get saved. A demon can't touch that, but it can affect your will and your emotions and your mind, which is your soul and your body. And it does. And a Christian can and does have demons.
Have you ever had the flat earth demon cast out of you?
I don't think there's a demon for flat earth, but if there was, it would be hard to see his profile.
And that's what I like about you, Lee. You knew that you were going to get that when you come on here, and you got a good attitude, and you just take it all in stride. All right, let's get to another question for you. See if we can trip you. See if we can. Hey, man. So I'm watching Jeopardy of Champions. Did you see that?
I've seen them. Yeah.
It was this last week. Did you see any of them?
No.
Oh, man. It was the best Jeopardy ever. These three guys, they had the three all-time smartest guys ever. And the way they interacted and the jokes they said and how they played off each other was just a show in and of itself. It was awesome. Guy won, Ken Jennings, I think, won $1 million. But one of the, if you know how it goes, you write your answer down, right? And it displays. And one of the guys said he wrote in there, Pat say J, just S-A-J, I think it was, scratched out best host ever, Alex Trevette. In other words, he started writing Pat Sajak, and so then Alex Trebek looked at it. He goes, man, I hope you bet everything and lost. It was funny. It's not doing nothing. Maybe they should have some flat earth questions on that. That would have tripped them up. All right. David Burnell says, quantum computers exist now. How do quantum computers differ from the current 3D computers?
A quantum computer is based on qubits. A binary computer is based on the numbers 0 and 1. That's what all computers are based on, what we're using right now. A cubic computer or a quantum computer, and D-Wave is the prominent maker of these, the 0 can be a 1 and the 1 can be a 0 simultaneously. And when you multiply that on a quantum level, it goes into an infinite realm. And so these quantum computers are very hot and they have to be cooled down, because a quantum computer is millions, if not billions of times quicker than a regular binary computer, because the 0 and the 1 can be a 1 and a 0 simultaneously, and infinite other combinations, which a binary computer cannot.
Wow. Now that was a great explanation.
I wish I had one about the flat Earth.
Wait a minute, man. That's what I wish you would too, because that's what you're on the show for. Hello. All right. Let's see what we got here. Why can we, this is Space Cow again, why can we see the stars through the moon some night? Oh, wow. Why can we see the stars through the moon some nights? Now, I can't verify that, but evidently they can.
I can.
You seen it?
Actually, there's a website, YouTube channel called Crow 777, and he was the guy who first discovered that. The reason you can see stars through the moon is that, again, the moon is not terra firma. It is not even a moon. There's no earth or anything you can step on. It's a light. And because it's a light, it's a translucent crystalline subject matter that lights can penetrate through. So again, in the book of Enoch, the sun pours its light into the moon over a 14-day period. It fully illuminates, and then as it's waning over the next 14 days, it becomes a new moon. But the sun pours its light into the moon projects its own unique light, but the moon in and of itself is not a terra firma location. You can't walk on it. It's only a light, and because of that, other lights can project through it.
Well, last week's guest said that the Earth is hollow, and he said that's why when NASA shot something at the moon, it rang like a bell. So how can a disc ring like a bell, Lee?
Well, your first mistake is you said two words, NASA said. Anytime you start a sentence with NASA said, you should say, I'm lying. I'm lying. I don't believe a word they say. I don't even know if that happened. I've seen no empirical evidence. Who knows? Who knows?
Now that reminded me of this all-time commercial I can't stand from Progressive. We're broadcasting now on TuneIn Radio, and I don't know if anybody listens to TuneIn. You know, I mainly listen to 70s radio on TuneIn, but this program is simulcasting on TuneIn. But when you listen to TuneIn, they have, the way they do it is they have commercials, and so Progressive has this commercial, and this gay guy keeps going, back at you, 2 snaps, okay, back at you. And so when you said the 2 words like that, I thought I heard that guy's voice, back at you. Ooh, I'm scarred from that. You just have to hear it, okay? Whew.
I didn't know you had a gay button, Daniel.
Yeah,
You're not gay. You're not gay.
No, last I checked, no. All right, let's see what we got here. In a world of lies, did God create the languages to protect the truth from the lies?
Ask that question again.
In a world of lies, did God create the languages to protect the truth from the lies?
Yes. That's a great question. That's profound. What's he doing on this show?
Okay. Well, there you go. That was from Australian Ben. I guess we're going to have you on the show, man.
That guy's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason that, according to the Bible, the reason the Lord confused the languages is that they were actually building a tower to ascend to heaven. Nimrod wanted to get to heaven and kill God. In my book, Morning Star's Tale, Lucifer reveals that his goal is to turn us into little gods, and that together with him and his angels, we're going to ascend heaven and kill God. And I know that sounds insane, but that actually is what I believe Lucifer's plan is. And that's where all of this is leading, starting with the coronavirus, the vaccine, and all that. All of this is leading to transhumanism, to what Elon Musk talks about, to what Ray Kurzweil talks about, loading your mind and your consciousness into a machine and becoming eternal. And this all ties into the Luciferian one world order.
Well, it kind of reminded me of, what was it, Orson Welles said, in a world of, universal deception, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. And,
That was George Orwell.
George Orwell, yeah. So telling the truth is a revolutionary act, and it's interesting because I just before the show I wrote something in Facebook and I read it, and now I don't know that anybody caught it, but it was really a play. I reworded the opening monologue of Rod Serling on a Twilight Zone episode called "The Obsolete Man." And it's one of the most profound openings ever of all Twilight Zone history. And I reworded it to fit today. But in it, it says every super state has one iron rule, that logic is an enemy and truth is a menace. And speaking the truth is a menace. You say, well, you can say to these governors, well, why can't I plant a seed in my front yard? That's logic. They don't like that. You should not ask that question. You just obey, or why can't I go fishing out in the middle of the lake? How can I get COVID out there? That's logic. This logic is not being applied to this. These people are immersed in a bloodlust of power. And I got to tell you, you kind of said it earlier, they're going to come back again. If they come back in the fall, people are going to switch off again. And they're going to think it's normal. In other words, they're attempting to normalize this shutdown, and so this normalization is, we'll come back and give you some more money when it happens, whatever. But they're trying to normalize it. We can't allow this to be normalized, Lee.
The mayor of Los Angeles, I think it's Garcia, and there's Newsom. This is the latest in Los Angeles. You can go on the beach, but there is a distinction. You can only go on the wet sand. And I'm not making this up. What I'm about to say is going to sound more insane than any of this flat earth stuff I've thrown at you for the last hour. You can go on the wet sand, but you can't go on the dry sand. In other words, where the ocean meets the sand, the shoreline, you can run, you can jog, you can ride your bike, but you can't go to the dry sand and lay down. Or you can't go to the dry sand and stop. You can only keep walking to your car. So wet sand good, dry sand bad.
And Lee, all we hear is this is based on science. But it can't be based on science because there's no precedent. This has never happened before, and nobody's went out there and said, hey, nobody has done a study to go with what you said. I guarantee you, I'll bet $100 on this. No one's done a study to see how many people get coronavirus or spread it on dry sand versus those on wet sand. I guarantee you that scientific study was never done. So how could they possibly tell people, and how could they possibly believe that they're hearing science?
They're just making it up. What is it that Kissinger said? Henry Kissinger, speaking of quotes, he said, power is the ultimate aphrodisiac. And these governors are getting off on this power trip. And you're seeing a division. Who's the guy who was in the movie? I know that doesn't narrow it down. Matthew McConaughey from Austin. I was watching him on a clip the other day, and he said, it's too bad about the division we're seeing. People that aren't wearing masks are thought of as conservative. Those that are wearing the mask are thought as liberal. And I thought, well, yeah, that's true. I don't go into Walmart wearing a mask because I don't live in fear. And all I see are people living in fear. And yet they say they're Christians. If you're a Christian and you're living in fear, who is your God? And what are you hanging on to?
Mm-hmm. Now
I'm not going to live in this world with all these restrictions. At some point, they're going to need to just take me out.
But see, then they would come back at you, back at you, back at you, back at you. They would say, but a preacher got COVID after he had a 250 member congregation at his service on Sunday. They would come back at you.
And they have no evidence to prove it. Here's how insane it is. About a month ago, actually 6 weeks ago, there was an article in the New York Post. You know what it said? Harvey Weinstein has COVID. I started laughing when I read that because I thought, there's no way to prove that. He's in prison. And then you see Tom Hanks come on a couple months ago and say he and his wife has COVID and they were in Australia, and here's what you need to do. You need to do this and that. Let's see. Tom Hanks, Apollo 11, documentaries on the moon landing, the Da Vinci Code. This guy certainly seems to get the plum rolls. I have no idea why.
Yeah, and he also
could it be used as a tool for to promulgate this agenda?
he also has some of the creepiest Twitter posts ever. Like he'll show a picture of a single child's shoe, or a single child's glove, or something something to do with kids. And I'm thinking this guy's a freak, and it reminds me of Joe Biden, Mr. Fingers. All right,
his kid, Tom Hanks' kid, had a video that I watched about a month ago, and he went off on the fact that it was about the Illuminati and this and that it's all a conspiracy, and he was making fun of it. He was doing it without his shirt on, and on his chest he had the pyramid with the Eye of Horus. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, talk about being in your face in plain sight.
Well,
I think most people are going to take the shot, Daniel. I think most people are going to capitulate. I think there will be a remnant that will resist. But, the road to heaven is narrow. It's not wide.
But now it's interesting you said this. I think this is important, and this has to do with the mark of the beast, because just today I saw an article, I think it was through the Yahoo feed, it said many Christians believe that the vaccine will carry the mark of the beast for them in their crazy beliefs. But you said something interesting, that people have to accept it. So if they tie you down and shoot you with it, then are you saying that is not a legitimate mark of the beast that will separate you from God in the eternal heaven?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. If they read their Bible, first of all, the Antichrist is not any president. He's not a member of WHO. He's not a member of Microsoft. It says in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, he will arise from the abyss. And again, in the book, Morning Star's Tale, hell is 3,600 miles below the surface of the earth. So according to the book of Revelation, the Antichrist comes from hell, from the abyss to the earth. And I actually believe that the Antichrist is going to be more of a hybrid than a human being, because in the book of Daniel, it talks about how he has no affection for women. He has no affection at all. And so he's going to say, he's going to give, the false prophet gives life to the beast, the image of the beast, and all that won't worship it, well, you got to buy, trade, and sell. You got to take the mark, and if you don't, he'll kill you. He'll kill you. This vaccine is not the mark of the beast, but will it mess you up? Who knows?
Now, there would be some people out there that say a Christian, that would wear a mask not through fear, but say through prudence. Say they don't want to breathe on other people. They want to show a little respect, make somebody else feel more comfortable. And this is true because there is the variation now of how we've been trained here in the last 30 days, how we perceive people. If somebody has a mask, you think, okay, well, they're taking precautions to prevent maybe from infecting you, maybe. So it doesn't always fear if somebody's wearing a mask. Would that be a truism?
That is a definite truism. It's the same thing with flat Earth. Believing in flat Earth doesn't mean you're a Christian. I mean, that's not how you get into heaven. And if someone's wearing a mask, I'm respectful. When I'm at Walmart and I see people wear masks, I try to stay away from them. I don't want to pile on the fear, but by the same token, I'm not going to live in fear. It's killing people in nursing homes. It's killing the obese. It's killing those with diabetes. And if you take a look at the numbers, and we know they have been exaggerated, it's killing no more people than the yearly flu does.
All right,
I mean, at what point, America's about taking a risk. What are we going to do? Not drive cars anymore because you might die in a car accident?
All right. Well, let's just we had a good time with that last question about anybody seen a demon. So, all right, viewers in the live chat particularly. Let's see, how do I want to phrase that? The question would be: would you wear a mask voluntarily? Yes or no? Yes or no in the live chat. Will you in any situation wear a mask voluntarily?
If they ask me to wear a mask to go into Walmart to buy food, yeah, of course I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And Marcius Conceptus says, I was wondering if you would know how NASA developed the film out of the Hasselhoff cameras that they said the astronauts used on their Apollo mission.
You'd have to ask Stanley Kubrick.
All right, we're getting some answers in already. The question on the table was, would you wear one voluntarily? Space Cow, no. Meow M, no. Put Yahweh first, yes. Berserker, no. Meow says, if they asked me to. Anybody else? The question is, would you wear a mask voluntarily? Of course, Joe Biden has his own mask developed for him. It goes around his face, but it has a hole for his nose so that he can continue to sniff women's hair. So I'm not sure if that even counts as a mask. So I'm not sure where he's going. Tony in Louisiana said no. Joey Splat said, I would just shop somewhere else. Scotty says, no, I'm not wearing a mask. True and Treasure says, no, no, no. Now, there are some negative health consequences for that, wearing a mask. I mean, probably you can use it for some period of time, but it does restrict oxygen and forces you to breathe your own CO2. So that has to be taken into account, I would think.
Well, I don't wear a mask. You have to, at some point, mix in logic and reason with your spiritual beliefs. Now, when the vaccine comes down, I'm like you. I plan on resisting it. What I'd like to see is what's in it. I'd also like to see how people react over the next 30 days after they're administered the vaccine. I'm of the mind, okay, let's hold off for now. I'm going to kick the can down the road. I want to see how many people drop dead within the first 30 days.
Now, here's what I say personally about the mask. I want to be able to choose if I want to wear a mask. I want the choice. I want the freedom to decide if I want to wear one. I mean, I have. In a situation, I have. So, but when somebody tells me to, I take offense to that because I don't tell them what to do, and this is America, but if I want to voluntarily, and I would also say there should be, civilization-wise, there shouldn't be a stigma, and I think you kind of said that, between the mask wearers and the not mask wearers. There needs to be from our government a unification saying, we like you to, but please, if somebody's not, don't look at them like they're the devil bringing death to you. And people that don't say people that do wear them are obedient slaves of the system and have no mind of their own and just following orders, But see, there's that always keeping society butting heads against each other, so that distracts. We got to keep us fighting each other so they can do their dirty work behind the scenes. You got the flat earthers fighting the hollow earthers. You got the cats knocking stuff off tables. I mean, it's
the thing about the Flat Earth and the Flat Earth Society and the Flat Earth conferences, I'm not affiliated with any of that. I just wrote the book, and occasionally I'll talk to people like you about it, but I'm not really emotionally in on it. I'm through fighting everyone and everything. And the problem with your argument about mass is that it's logical. And you're trying to apply logic to a large group of people that are completely immersed in fear. And you really can't logic your way out of fear. As long as people are filled with fear, logic is the last thing they want to hear.
All right. And Azur says, as to the Great Flood in the Bible, the water source from the ocean you described earlier, what was the water source from the ocean you described earlier?
It came from two directions. It came from the deep bosom beneath the flat Earth.
Oh, yeah, the big bosom.
There are oceans below it. You talk about the hollow Earth and all that. So it came from the ground, but he also opened up the firmament dome, and that water flooded in from the great ocean above. So from the ocean above and the ocean below and the ground itself, all of those sources of water came together and flooded the snow globe. That's essentially what it is. It's a snow globe like the Truman Show, and the Lord flooded that and killed everyone except Noah and his family.
Is there any direct scripture that you know of that suggests flat Earth?
In the book of Isaiah, it talks about the Lord looking down upon the circle of the earth. And if you look down directly at a circle, it's two-dimensional. And
the four winds seem to bode, not making your case, but from the east, west, south, north, that seems like a square rather than say coming from a globe.
Well, and that's the thing. Think of the Frisbee turned upside down with the edge, and then place that on a desk. Now look down on the desk, and what you see are the four corners and the Antarctic ice wall. But after that is what we can't go see because of the Antarctic Treaty. So I think a lot of the Earth has been undiscovered and is restricted because eventually if you keep walking, you're going to hit a wall. That's my goal in life. I want someone to take me to the edge where the firmament meets the earth.
Hey, when you hit that wall, will you break that story here on the edge?
See, the name of your show is contradictory to what I'm trying to say. There is no edge. There's just a firmament meeting the flat earth.
And it does bode well, because I always talk that euphemism. It says, from the four corners of the earth. Well, globes don't have a corner, last I checked.
Right. And in the book of Genesis, there's a lot of scripture that alludes to the flat earth. It talks about the Lord separating the waters from above and below. So what he did was he separated the waters that were above with the firmament dome. And the reason that NASA has not gone back since 1972, and they never did, you can't get out of here. We're stuck here. No one's going anywhere.
It's kind of like we're in quarantine, man.
We are in quarantine.
We're in a flat Earth quarantine. I never even thought about that. Wow.
We're in a flat Earth everything.
So here's the question, and I'm sure you get asked this question. It's kind of an overarching one. Why do they tell us the Earth is round if it's flat? What do they get from that?
In the movie The Matrix, Neo says to the Oracle, why do they do it? And she said, why do all men do what they do? Control, power. They can print endless money. That's what the Fed does. But when you control people, you own them. And that's where all of this with COVID is going, creating a two-tier society. The elite, the technocrats, the technocracy, and us serfs. So by telling you, you live in a ball, you're spinning at 940 miles an hour, going through and around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour in an insignificant galaxy, you're nothing. You're a speck. You evolve from nothing. You're going nowhere. You have no purpose. You're going to die. You don't matter. But a flat earth says, God created this place for you. You're special. Everything revolves around you. I built this place for you. And this is your home for now.
Well, that leads to the question, is heaven flat as well?
Boy, that's a really good one. In the book of Enoch, it talks about him taking up to 10 heavens. You have the first heaven of the third dimension where we live. Above the firmament dome, you have the second heaven of the fourth dimension. Then you have the third heaven where God lives. That's the fifth dimension, as the occultists call it, the age of Aquarius. And then you have a 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And actually, the 10th heaven, according to the book of Enoch, is where God lives. God actually lives in the 10th heaven, whatever that is. That's where he resides. He's everywhere, but that's his mailing address for Amazon. If he gets a delivery from Amazon, it's going to the 10th heaven.
Okay, so but now you're not a Mormon, right?
No.
Okay, last week's guest was, and I guess they teach that the earth is hollow. So I'm wondering, well, what... So
I'm not too sure if it's hollow. After I was done writing the book, and the book isn't just about flat Earth. I mean, I talk about numerology, Kabbalah, Freemasonry, duality, and all that stuff. After I got through writing the book, my head hurt so much, I didn't want to go down the hollow Earth rabbit trail. That was enough for now. Maybe someday I'll write a book about it. But I think it's more important to get the word out that we live in an enclosed system as opposed to a hollow Earth. The Earth could be hollow. I have no idea.
Now, Truth and Treasure has this question. I'm not sure what it's related to, but it says, why are we quarantined? Why are we here and not able to get out? What's going on? So I'm thinking maybe it was to my reference that we're sort of quarantined on this flat Earth, kind of going with your conversation there. But in general, we're quarantined from the truth. That's really what the essence of this thing is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the short answer to what she's looking for is why is all this happening? Easy. New world order, new world currency, new world leader, book of Revelation. Are we there yet? No. Are we in the birth pains? Yeah, it's starting. This is the beginning of it. And it is, if you don't put your trust in God, it's pretty scary. It really is. And, I've kind of gone through this process like all of us have. And even last night I was thinking, man, now that Trump is saying he's going to use the military to hand out the vaccines, that's the end of the game. But then I thought, I'm only here for a little while anyway. Let's see where it goes. And I have a feeling that this flat Earth stuff is probably going to catch on really quick in the next 6 months because people are going to be open to the truth. And when they look and do their own investigative work and discover that it's flat, their faith in God will increase, not decrease.
Well, no, that's a hopeful thing right there. I said earlier that you obviously weren't the cheery kid in class, but right there you had a little give us a little hope.
Oh, yeah. My hope and my joy in the Lord has increased exponentially since I became a believer in the flat Earth, because now I get it. I realize why they're doing all this stuff they're doing. They're hiding God. They don't want people to get saved. They want to bring in the light bearer. They want to bring in their God, and then they want to storm heaven and kill God. I know it sounds insane, but that's the ultimate goal for Lucifer. Satan knows he's going to go in the pit, but he actually thinks he can beat God, and he's going to try and get as many people to help him.
He's going to try to kill him?
I like what that bubble you said. Did he just say that? Yeah. No, that's his goal. I honestly believe that is his goal.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's not too far out of it, because it's clear that's what was going on before the flood. All the generations were corrupted except for Noah's. They were trying to get to him too. And I think had they succeeded, that was where the lineage of Christ came. And so, yeah, from that standpoint, you can kill somebody or you can prevent it from being born, which is the same thing.
This is a DNA war. And getting back to that lady's question, why are they doing all this? The answer is also DNA. They want to alter our DNA so that we no longer reflect the image of God. Remember, God said we were made in his image. The angels were not. Christ came to save man, not angels. Angels can't be saved. The angels that rebelled with Lucifer and the 200 watcher angels are doomed to the lake of fire. However, Lucifer wants man to be made in his image. And the way that I believe he's going to do that is change the systemic DNA. And the way you do that, perhaps, not only with a chip, but a vaccine that is a DNA game changer, so that you no longer reflect God, you become a hybrid and no longer are fully human. Mm-hmm. That's the real insidious dark part of all of this.
Now that is, we're talking about arriving at a certain truth or belief. That is something that I have come to the conclusion with many of the interviews that I've done. This is like near 1,000, whatever it is, since 2004. And that is that, yes, that the DNA sequence is part of our checkpoint. When we go to heaven, there's going to be a check, and they're going to check that DNA. Man, if your DNA ain't human, I say, you ain't coming in here, pal. That's my personal belief.
In the book of Revelation, it says once you take the mark, you can no longer be redeemed. And it also talks about a 5-month period where those who took the mark are stung by scorpions. What I believe happens is that the moment you take the mark, it systemically changes your DNA. When Adam and Eve were in the garden, I believe they had a triple helix DNA. We have a double helix. They had a triple helix. So not only were they in Eden, but I believe they could have transcended all 10 heavens and were fellowshipping with God just thinking about it. There was no need to even talk. There was telepathy. There was interdimensional travel through portals, string theory, whatever you want to call it. But Adam and Eve had a triple helix DNA. What's going to happen is that when Lucifer passes along this mark, you take the mark and it changes your DNA. You now have a triple helix DNA, but you reflect the light of the light bearer. And once you reflect the light of the light bearer, you can't be saved by Jesus Christ, because you're no longer made in the image of God. And that's why when you take the mark, you're damned to hell.
And that was very impressively said. Jack Psychosis says, Lee, do you have a Facebook?
No, I don't do any social media. I just have the website, morningstarstale, TALE.com, and you can buy the book at Amazon. I don't do social media because I don't care what people think.
You mean you're not addicted to likes and replies?
No, after doing Flat Earth for the last 2 years, I want to keep a low profile.
Well, I got to agree. I can imagine what happens with that.
Oh, my God.
Well, Lee Austin, I appreciate you coming back on a program. It just went too fast, and man, you had a lot of good information in there. What'd you think about the program, and what's your final thoughts?
I think you do a great program, and I like the fact that you involve the audience, that a lot of the questions come from the audience and it's audience participation. If anybody's interested in the book, it's called Morning Star's Tale. It's spelled T-A-L-E, Morning Star's Tale, and it's available at Amazon. You can also go to my website, morningstarstale.com. And I actually have an ebook you can download if you want to take a look at it. But I suggest you buy the book, not just because I would make money. It needs to be studied. The book is only 80 pages long. It went through 5 revisions, and I kept it short because it's filled with meat. And you read one page, you put it down, you think about it, and then you read the next page. It's not a quick read. It's a slow read, because basically it's telling you everything you've learned is a lie, and here's the truth according to Lucifer.
All right, couple comments real quick. Meow M says, thank you, Lee. Pam says, I love your attitude. You two are awesome. Again, thank you. God bless. Great show, great guest, great topics. So, yeah, evidently you received really well. Lee Austin, I appreciate you coming on the program. Can we have you on again sometime?
Oh, absolutely, Daniel. I appreciate it, and I'm glad I was able to get my Skype situations straightened out. So, yeah, anytime you want me to come back on, and we don't have to talk about Flat Earth. There's a lot of other topics we can talk about.
There was
the
a lot of
Nephilim,
material in between
yeah.
the Flat Earth we were talking about
Yeah,
tonight.
and I saw some of your guests, and I've had Steve Quayle on, and you've got some great guests. So, yeah, kudos to you and your show.
Okay. All right, then. Stay safe.
Stay safe, Daniel. Have a great night.
All right, bye-bye. All right.